So hi there. I thought that maybe if anybody's out there who is interested in this great theory of Immanuel Kant, this German giant of philosophy, he or she may hopefully find this recording useful. This will be my attempt at explaining what is meant by phenomenon and the thing in itself by Immanuel Kant. This is actually his theory of transcendental idealism, or his ontology, or the essence of his ontology, we might say. Kant is a notoriously difficult author, which is true, and he's also sometimes thought of as an academic and boring philosopher, which I think is completely wrong. I think it's what he discovered is really thrilling. It's a shocking thing. So it goes like this. Let us suppose that we are sitting by a table and there's a potato on the table. A regular potato with a color that has some color and taste and smell, and it occupies a certain portion of space and it lasts in time. In other words, it's a spatio-temporal object for us, right? This is the way we perceive it. Now, an important thing is that when we open our eyes, the potato is just there. No matter what we do, it is independently of our will there. We are not creating it in any way. Like a different situation would be if I thought of a potato that I ate yesterday. It no longer exists, only in my memory. I can create its image in my head, and in this case, it's just in my head, and I am the author of the image. But when I look at the potato on the table, it's a different thing. It is independent of me, right? This is important. Okay, so let us suppose that an alien from the outer space comes to Earth and sits by me, by the table, and also perceives the potato. Now, his mind and his senses would be completely different than the human ones that I have. So for him, we have 5 senses, we people. Sight and hearing and smell and so on. So he would not have these senses, probably, right? So he would have different senses. We do not know which ones. So for him, the potato would not have any smell. It would not have any color, things like that. And by the way, this is something that was discovered by John Locke and George Berkeley, these philosophers before Kant. But Kant made a huge step ahead compared with these empiricists. He said that even space and time and some other things, but let's just leave them aside. Let's just focus on space and time only. Space and time are also only in the human mind, actually. They are the functions of the human mind only. So the alien, when he perceives the potato, not only does not perceive the sensual qualities that we do, but he does not perceive the potato in space and time. For the alien, space and time do not exist, because they are the functions of the human brain or mind. Now, this is a crucial thing. It's a shocking thing. This is a real matrix, something like a matrix, but it's not a movie. It is the real thing. It is not fiction. It's real. Space and time are nothing if you take away the human mind. But, as I said before, we are not the creators of the potato. So, when we take away the human mind and senses that perceive the potato, we take away the potato as a spatio-temporal object. It just becomes nothing, without space and time, of course. But it becomes nothing only as a phenomenon, because as we haven't created it, it keeps on existing, but not as a spatio-temporal object. So the potato, as long as it is in space and time, it is only a phenomenon or something that exists in our mind. As space and time are the functions of the human mind, as long as it is in space and time, it is in the mind only, or in us, literally says Kant, in uns in German, which doesn't mean that it is, it's in on a different spot in space, so it is not in the mind like in my head. It's in a different place in space, and my head is in a different place in space. But space is the function of, it's only in the mind. When we take away the mind, the brain, then it disappears. Space and time disappears, so everything that is in space and time disappears as well. So the potato as a phenomenon disappears, but it goes on existing outside of these spatio-temporal qualities, because they come from us, but the potato didn't come from us. So it must have also existence in the form that is different from the way we perceive it. It is outside of space and time. It also exists outside of space and time. Why? Because space and time is only in the mind, in the human mind. And second, we have not created the potato. So what follows is that it must have some existence outside of space and time, outside of these forms. And this is what Kant calls an sich, or in itself. In itself means outside of the forms of the human mind, of the perceiving human mind. So let us suppose that a situation that after a natural disaster of some sort, everybody dies on earth but one man who survives and stands on the surface of the planet, and he views the universe, the stars, the buildings, the trees, all these things around him, right? But when this guy dies, what happens is that space and time disappear, according to Kant. So all the planets, all the trees, all the buildings disappear as well as spatio-temporal objects. And this is a shocking thing, isn't it? So it means that these things are in the mind only, as long as we perceive them. And this is what means that they are transcendentally ideal and empirically real. Empirically real means that they are really out there in space. When we perceive them, they are, it's not a vision or some sort of fiction. But they do not exist if you take away the human mind, because you take away space and you take away time, which means that you take away all the material world. So Kant kind of showed that any kind of materialism is naive. So this is the theory.